Welcome back to the workshop, everybody. So glad you could be with me here today. Walter here at the workbench. So, I've had some requests to get into discussing the different planes, a little bit of terminology, and how they are used. I'm going to try to do this as quick as I can. I had thought about adding my wooden-bodied planes in the discussion, but basically the same discussion would be the same for wood-bodied versus iron-bodied. So, which plane do you pick first? Well, we talked about this in an earlier video, but in today's world, I would say your first plane would be a block plane. Now, a block plane comes basically two different ways. This is a low angle, and this is a high-end plane. This is a Lee-Nielsen. It's what I worked myself up to, and this is what I use. You can go with any number 60 1/2 that you find that's in good working order, and you clean and sharpen it. Now, these are low angle because the blade is bedded, and we'll talk about the bed angle, at 12 degrees with a bevel up that gives us 37 degrees if you grind it and hone at 25 degrees. At a pure 25 degrees. No micro bevel, okay? A pure 25 degree hone gives you 37. If you add another 7 or 8 degrees to that, you're basically back up to 45 degrees, which is the same as any other plane. So, the block plane is very useful in the modern day workshop for just lightly trimming the edge of something that you may have run through a table saw or even across a power jointer. So you can clean your edge up with that. It's also great for trimming where you're applying a solid edge to a piece of plywood. I'm going to be flip-flopping back here between more or less unplugged woodworking and modern day power tool workshops with the use of hand planes to augment it. So, the next plane that you would discuss would be something either in a smoother or a jack. The difference between these is the length of the plane. Now, there are a lot of different sizes. You can have a number 3, which is 1 3/4, a number 4, which is 2 inches, or a number 4 1/2, which is 2 3/8. Same thing with the number 5. If you can find a 5 1/4, it would match your number 3, which is 1 3/4 inch. The number 5 is 2 inch, matches the 4. The number 5 1/2 today, modern day, matches the 4 1/2 at 2 3/8 inches. So, for the most part, you'll find recommendations all over that a number 4 be your next purchase. I personally would recommend the number 5. Why? Well, the number 5, you coming up, Rob? Mr. Rub is in the workshop. Come on. Come on. Come on, Mr. Rub. Come on, Rub. Come on. Come on. My kitty's here. He may join us. So, you can take your number 5 and you can do roughing. You can do jointing. And you can do finish cuts. Come on, Rub. The number 4, however, is primarily a smoother. That's the one you use to get that glass, smooth, polished surface. Okay? Some of your more popular woodworkers will advocate to buy a number 4 and it'll do absolutely everything. Yes, you can rough with it. Whoa, we almost got Mr. Rub. Yes, you can rough out with it, and yes, you can scrub with it, and yes, you can do your finishing with it, but it does not do as well at jointing pieces about 3 foot long or less, which is what we would use for furniture and cabinetry. So that's where the jack comes in. Now, the reason I recommend you choose a smoother and a jack that are the same width and can exchange blades is because you want to keep extra blades on hand. I keep a spare, this is a generic, there's no name on it at all, probably made in wherever, but it works. I keep a spare straight, and then I took, this is a more modern day Stanley, and I put a camber on it, okay, to act more like a scrub plane, but it's not quite a true scrub. It's a roughing blade. The term scrub plane is, well, go back in my video, Scrub-a-Dub-Dub, and you'll hear what I have to say about scrubs. So, let's break one of these down real quick, and the terminology will be pretty much the same on any of the Stanley or actually Bailey patent planes. The blocks are a little different, okay? We'll leave discussion on that for another day, but almost all Bailey patent style planes, and I don't care whose they are, whether it was Stanley, whether it was Sargent, whether it was Miller's Falls, whether it was Ward Master, whether it was Dunlop, Sears Craftsman, and then you get into the more modern day, the Lee Nielsen, the Clifton, the, well, Veritas kind of went out on their own. They all have this similar design, and it is absolutely brilliant. We pop the hood. That is known as your lever, L-E-V-E-R cap. You take out your blade set. This is a blade set or an iron set, depending which side of the pond you're on. It contains your iron, your cutting iron, and your cap iron. We call it in America your blade and your chip breaker, and your chip breaker screw. Then, without tearing the plane apart, I'm going to go through this as quick as possible. This is your frog. This is your lateral adjustment. This is your advance adjustment, which uses a screw, a knob on a screw with a yoke. This is the yoke. The yoke comes through here, and that's what advances. That connects to your chip breaker, and that's what advances. These are your yoke, your frog attaching screws. This is called the mouth. These are the cheeks. This is the sole. Front knob, rear tote. This whole assembly is called the plane body. All right? Other than that, this is just a lever cap screw. And in here is a frog adjusting screw, which I hardly ever use. I only use it when I'm setting up the plane. So, without getting into anything about restoration and everything, because I've done videos on that. Look back in my videos. One of the key elements of setting up your plane is your chip breaker to your cutting edge. If it's set fine, you'll get super fine shavings. If it's set too fine, it will clog. If it's set coarse, you'll get coarse shavings. Common sense, eh? When you put your blade back in, some people like to do it where the frog is level. It doesn't really matter to me. I can do it in any shape. But what I usually do is I hug the screw Okay? And then I set it down and I move it forward so it never touches metal. Once in, I'll jiggle it around a little bit to make sure that it is actually sitting on the yoke and the lateral. You see how the lateral is moving? I'll get it about in the middle, put the hood back on, or the lever cap, clamp it down. Then it comes time to look down the sole to see how much protrusion you have. And you want to even it up as much as you can, just by eye, and then back it off. Okay, I don't know if you can see this, but I will try to get it on camera. There is just a little bit of blade exposure. I don't know if you can see it. So now what I'll do is I will back that off and then test it on a piece of wood. I'm getting no cut. Okay? I will use the advancing knob, and in today's modern planes, they all go clockwise for advance, counter or anti-clockwise for retract. There are some older planes that it's the reverse. So then I will test it and I get a cut. I will move it over to one side of the plane or the other, and I will take a test cut. And I'll see what kind of cut I get. Then I'll move it over to the other side of the plane. You see I'm getting a smaller cut. That means I'm getting a little more blade out on this side. So I just tap the lateral over, try it again. I'm getting about a ½ inch of cut. And about 3/4. So just a little tap that way. And there we go. Now I'm centered. All right. Perfect. Perfectly centered cut. Now, how do you actually use a plane? I will demonstrate with the jointer because it's bigger. I have more surface area in the front here and a longer rear. What you always want to do is start out at the beginning of your wood and you put pressure. I'm going to come up here so you can see it, but I'm actually going to go back there. You put slight pressure down on the front of your plane and you center the plane on your work. Putting pressure down on here gets the cut going up front here. And then as you finish the cut and you're getting towards the end, you want to relieve the pressure on this knob and put more back here on your toe. So it's front, it's toe, constant, toe and heel, and then heel. Toe, heel. I didn't mention that. This is the sole, this is the toe, this is the heel. Toe, constant, heel. Toe, heel. And that's it. Now, if you're interested to learn more about chip breaker settings, go back to planing against the grain and some of my other ones that'll explain it. But that's basic use of a plane. You just advance fractions of a turn until you start getting a cut. And then you're done. While you're planing, you may find some resistance. You may want to use some oil or wax on the sole. And that makes planing just a dream. I hope this video has helped somebody. It's real basic stuff, and I'm going quick through it because I could spend an actual day discussing all the intricacies about the hand plane and how it works. But I'll close with this. The hand plane is the most perfect, imperfect tool because you have a flat sole with a blade sticking out and you're trying to create a flat surface, but because that blade is sticking out, it wants to rock on that blade. So it truly is a matter of personal skill, whether you want to hollow the center of your board out, okay, or whether you want to make it perfectly straight by taking just the right passes. If you found this video useful, give it the thumbs up, like and share it with everybody that you do woodworking with, and don't forget to subscribe. That's how you'll know when I do another video. And as always, using my radio voice, head out to your shop. Go make some shavings. Walter out.